Hello there, friends. I'm Kate, this is Zorra, and this is Cooking with Fur. Today, Zorra is making dog biscotti, and I will be assisting her. She's going to make two flavors of biscotti for dogs. The first is pumpkin cranberry, and the second is peanut butter apple. So, let's get cooking. Growing up, my mom would always make biscotti during the holidays, so I wanted to do something similar for Zorra. In today's video, I'll be making both kinds of biscotti simultaneously. For this recipe, we'll be using pumpkin puree. You can absolutely just use canned pumpkin puree. However, I have this pumpkin left over from the fall, and I want to put it to good use. There are a number of ways to make pumpkin puree. My favorite, because it's really fast and easy, is to start by cutting off the skin from the pumpkin. After the skin is removed, I cut the pumpkin in half. And then I'm just going to scrape out all the seeds. For this recipe, I'm actually going to save the seeds because I'm going to use them in the biscotti. Next, I'd slice the pumpkin into chunks, and then I'm going to put it on the stove, cover it with water, and bring it to a boil. The pumpkin is done cooking when it's soft and easily pierced with a fork. It should take less than 10 minutes. Pour the pumpkin into a colander to strain out all the water, and then if you want to cool it quickly, you can rinse it under cold water or just let it sit to cool. I'm going to prepare some other ingredients while the pumpkin cools. First, I'm going to toast these pumpkin seeds. Rinse the pumpkin seeds and just pick out some of the big chunks of pulp that are in there. It's totally okay if some of it is still in there, it's not going to matter ultimately. This is one of the great things about baking for dogs is it doesn't have to be perfect. Unless, of course, your dog is super judgy. I'm going to quickly toast the pumpkin seeds. I start with just a dash of olive oil and then put them in a pan over medium heat. Keep stirring them, and once they start to look kind of toasty and golden brown, they're good to go. Next, I'm going to prepare some apples to make an apple puree. I'm using apples that came from the tree in our yard, but you can also just use plain unsweetened applesauce. To make this apple puree, I'm just coring the apples and roughly chopping them, leaving the skins on. Another ingredient that we'll need are chopped cranberries. And honestly, I had never chopped cranberries before this, and I made the mistake of trying to just chop them by hand. But they were very unruly and difficult to keep on the cutting board, so I quickly gave up and they're just gonna head into the food processor. The main ingredient in both types of biscotti is going to be oat flour. If you don't have any oat flour, it's incredibly easy to make. Just put rolled or steel-cut oats into a food processor and let it run until it's the consistency of flour. Next up is our apple puree. Just putting those chopped up apples into the food processor and letting it run until it looks like applesauce. I'm also using the food processor to chop my pumpkin seeds. Process them until they're finely chopped. Now I'm revisiting those cranberries that I abandoned on the cutting board. These only take a moment, you just want a rough chop. Finally, I'm going to make the pumpkin puree, which means I'm going to need Zorra's assistance. Pumpkin is a dog superfood. It's packed full of vitamins, minerals, and fiber. The pumpkin goes into the food processor for just a minute until it's a nice smooth puree. We're done with our food processing, and now it's time to gather the rest of our ingredients. Earlier today, Zorra went out to the chicken coop with me to help me collect eggs. We have 5 chickens. On the left is their coop, and yes, that is an air conditioner. And then in the middle is their enclosed run. It's reinforced to keep them safe from predators at night. And on the far right, they have a fenced yard where they spend time during the day. We're going to start with making the pumpkin cranberry biscotti. For this, we have oat flour, our pumpkin seeds and pumpkin puree, eggs, cranberries, baking powder, and ground ginger. We start by mixing together the dry ingredients. 2 1/4 cups of oat flour, 1 1/2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of ground ginger, which is great for digestion and it's an anti-inflammatory. And then a 1/2 cup of our chopped pumpkin seeds. If you're using canned pumpkin puree for this recipe, you can just skip those pumpkin seeds. Next, we're going to mix together the wet ingredients, starting with the pumpkin puree, which Zorra absolutely loves. Add 2 eggs, and whisk together. Next, we stir in our chopped cranberries, then we add all the dry ingredients into the wet ingredients. We're going to stir that really well to combine it into a nice firm dough. Once I have the pumpkin cranberry dough ready to go, I'm going to set it aside and I'm going to switch over to making the peanut butter apple dough. Once again, we're using oat flour, eggs, baking powder, ground flax seeds, which also are superfood for dogs. It's high in fiber, omega fatty acids, and antioxidants. Our apple puree, but again, you can substitute unsweetened plain applesauce. And Zorra's favorite, peanut butter. It's important to make sure you're using peanut butter that is safe for dogs. There are a few types out there where they've added xylitol as a sweetener, which is highly toxic for canines. We're going to start by mixing our dry ingredients. 2 1/2 cups of oat flour, 1/4 cup of ground flax seeds, and 1 1/2 teaspoons of baking powder. Then we're going to mix together our wet ingredients. We start by whisking together 2 eggs. Next, I add in 1 cup of apple puree or applesauce and ½ cup of peanut butter. I'm using an all-natural, unsweetened peanut butter. Then we add the dry ingredients into the wet and stir thoroughly. Now that our dough is ready, it's time to shape it and then bake it. We start with a parchment-lined baking sheet, and I divide each batch of dough in half. It gets shaped into a log that's about 1 inch thick and 4 or 5 inches wide. It doesn't matter how long the logs are. We'll bake these for 30 minutes at 325 degrees Fahrenheit. After 30 minutes, check the logs. They should be firm and have a bit of a crust on the outside. If needed, you can put them in a bit longer. Once the logs come out of the oven, let them cool almost completely. Then you're going to slice them using a sharp serrated knife and small cutting motions so as to not crumble and break the ends off. Cut the slices about 1 inch thick. Using a fresh sheet of parchment paper, arrange the slices back on a baking sheet with one of the cut sides down. These slices go back into the oven at 325 for 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, take them out of the oven and turn each slice over. When all the slices have been turned over, put them back in the oven for another 15 minutes. According to Zorra, this is the most difficult part of the whole process, which is waiting for the biscotti to cool. The cranberry biscotti is really pretty on its own, but the peanut butter biscotti looks a bit plain, so I'm going to make a peanut butter icing to drizzle over the top. Icing for dogs is a little different because it doesn't involve any sugar. I'm starting with a 1/4 cup of peanut butter, then adding 2 teaspoons of cornstarch. Mix that together well and then add just a little splash of hot water. Whisk those together and continue adding hot water a small amount at a time until you get a consistency that will be easily drizzled. You could use a spoon for drizzling, but I figured it would be easier and maybe a little less messy to use a pastry bag. It still wasn't perfect, but they're for dogs, so I'm not too worried. Just let the biscotti sit out for a while. The icing will harden as it dries. I'm really happy with how the biscotti looks, and I'm excited to give some of it away as gifts, and some of it I'm going to put in the freezer. First, the Zorra taste test. First up, the peanut butter apple. The fact that she started licking up all of the crumbs tells me that she probably liked it. And now for the pumpkin cranberry. The biscotti didn't turn out extremely dry and crunchy, but for Zorra that's perfect because she tends to prefer chewy treats. Overall, I'm really happy with how these turned out and Zorra seems to love them. In fact, she's been hounding me in the kitchen for more. Thank you so much for joining us for our first episode of Cooking with Fur. Zorra and I can't wait to come back and share more recipes for dogs. You'll also see more adventure videos from her in the near future. There's a link in the description below to Zorra's website, where you'll find today's recipes. I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Cooking with Fur, and I hope you subscribe. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions. Zorra and I will see you again soon.